Hi, I'm Everett Abrams, the Wizard of Wood, and today I'm going to talk to you in detail about cleaning composite decking. And you say, hey, what does the Wizard of Wood know about composite decking? Well, years ago, when the issue started with Trex, I actually had some input with their R&D department and know a little bit about what was going on with the old stuff, and then I also, obviously, as time has evolved, worked with, and as we build decks, also work with the other products. So I'm going to give you a detailed explanation how to clean these and what the best way is and so forth. So we'll get right into it. And the first thing we want to talk about is the old composites. And it doesn't matter whether it's Trex or TimberTech. They were two of the ones from the very beginning that the customers ran to and use these for their decking. If you compare the new and the old, you can see a big difference just in the thickness of it. For one. But what happens is the old stuff, it doesn't have a cap on it, and the new stuff does have a cap. So on the old composite decking, it was made with about 50% wood. In the specific example of Trex, they used red oak. Okay, so there is wood in the makeup of the planking. Now what happens with the wood, and as was relayed, it has tannins in it. Tannins give wood its color and pigmentation. If anybody has ever cleaned oak leaf stains off of their concrete and so forth, we say that dark black staining in the concrete. It's no different when it comes to the composites. So we have wood fibers in there, and those wood fibers, when you get a tannin bleed, will leave black spots. So what happens is we don't have a cap. Not much of one. You can see right here there's a nice kind of textured surface. It's kind of a little bit of a coating on it, but not much. And that has to do with how the planks were made and so forth. But what happens is they told you not to pressure wash back in the day. There was pressure washing going on, avoided the warranty. And what happened is they didn't want to remove this top part of the coating, because what happens is, when we flip this over, we can see wood fibers. And there might even show up better on a darker piece, but those light colors are wood fibers. This gets a lot of folks, when they're cleaning the composite decking today, if they still run into this, in a little bit of a jackpot, because what happens is it hasn't been cleaned in a long time. It looks like one color, and then you go and clean it, whether it's bleach or however you're cleaning it, and you clean the wood fibers. Or if you've put a brightener on there, you've brighten the wood fibers and it more exposes them. A lot of people, they may not even be the original owner of the house, and they say, hey, what did you do to the deck? And they don't understand the makeup of it. So if you're cleaning composite decks, you want to make sure, if it's old, that you educate your customer on the wood fibers being brightened or cleaned as you go through that cleaning process. Now, again, these things are old. The warranty's up on these. Most of these are gone, but you still run into them. This is actually different than today's composite, so it required a two-step cleaning. One step was a bleach, and the second one was the brightener still, the oxalic acid. You could also substitute with a phosphoric. It doesn't work as quick, and phosphoric isn't as good when it comes to the metal stains. Oxalic acid is really good if there's any metal staining, but the oxalic acid. So anyway, Trex comes up with Clean. We have different composite deck cleaners out there. Most of them were all two-step regarding these. And I know today everybody says bleach, 50%, 100%, hot mix, throw it out there. That's really not the idea, what we should be doing. Those kind of mixtures are not good on any surface. Usually when you have to do that, you're doing something wrong. And in the case of these old composites, you're actually doing it wrong. You don't need 100% straight bleach to go after any of this stuff. All you're doing is possibly causing damage. It could be a safety issue, that kind of stuff too, but we don't need those high concentrations. We're just trying to remediate the mold and mildew from the surfaces, apply the brightener, and get that clean. Now, they're so old, and they stain from grills and so forth, that what do? Well, the customer needs to be told one of two things. Either we can clean it and possibly put a stain. These are stainable products, so we could put a stain on it, a light colored stain, something like that. They are stainable, and try to get them a couple more years out of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's time for a new deck if you run into these in most cases. Although some of them are still in good shape. So they are a stainable product. They can be stained. That's one of the nice things about these is you could stain them. So anyway, not trying to beat a dead horse, but here we go from a side view. We see the wood fibers. They more went to the outside here, but they're all throughout. You remove the coating, you more expose the wood fibers. The wood fibers, if they're exposed, you know, you're told it's mold and mildew, and it really wasn't all mold and mildew. That's why there's a two-step cleaning, and why it's step one is your powder bleach or sodium percarbonate. It was, in most cases, predominantly, and then the oxalic acid. I know a lot of people are using sodium hypochlorite now, but you still need to use the oxalic acid to actually do this correctly. Now, I know there's a lot of people on Facebook groups and the Facebook group gurus that are out there, but I'm just being honest with you, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, wherever, just being honest with you, these people put a lot of money into R&D, into fixing a problem they had. It was a two-step process to clean it. They came up with that. I find it hard to believe that anybody in those groups knows more about the product than the manufacturer and the people in the R&D department that give these recommendations. Now, as I talk about recommendations, I do want to say that no matter whether we're using, and this is an old TimberTech product, they don't make it like this anymore, but the TimberTech, Trex, we have Zori here today, we have Wolf, we have Azek, we have a few of them here to illustrate in this video. But no matter who it is, if you're going to clean these, if you're not sure, you should go onto the company's websites and get their cleaning recommendations and follow those. The manufacturer recommendations are very important. And the reason I'm saying they're very important is if you do something incorrectly, you could void the warranty. If you're not supposed to be using bleach on a product and you do, that could be an issue. And there's other products as well that can damage different ones and so forth. So always the best thing to do would be refer to the manufacturer recommendation before you do anything. And let's say we do get to a situation where we have a lot of organic growth on one of the products, and it says don't use bleach, and we think bleach might be the best, or maybe oxygenated bleach. One of the things I would recommend to do is take pictures of it, send it to the manufacturer so that they can see what it is, and ask them what their recommendation would be, and you could get that documented in that way, which would be the best way, and get them to okay it. The big thing you don't want to do is void a warranty. And the reason I bring that up is, you know, these were, back in the day, they're like a 10-year warranty on these things, and they varied. Now they still vary, but a lot of them are 25-year and plus. So if you get a product that's 25-year guarantee, you certainly don't want to void that warranty. And a lot of the warranties are also transferable too. So just because the new homeowner buys it doesn't mean it's not registered and it's not under a warranty. So you want to be careful how you clean the products. So we've kind of done, I'm going to move these to the side. We're kind of done with the old products. We'll start talking about some of the newer products. So the newer ones that we get into when we talk about, again, I had TimberTech and Trex, is we have a lot of these which are called capped composite. And when you see this from the side view, we have a cap, and it starts here, goes around the top, and so forth, and then the composite is in here. So what we saw here exposed is still a lot of the same makeup, it just has a cap on it now. It's very important to understand about this cap and what can be cleaned and not cleaned. Also, if you have a 25-year guarantee plus on the product, on the capping, the manufacturers are, you know, they're not, they're watching, and they're watching in the groups, and they see these things where we post 50% hot mix and so forth, and they're concerned because that's 12.5% bleach. That's not even household bleach, which most of it, that's the recommendation. If they say to use bleach, it's household bleach. So we're using 12.5 and we're saying 50-50. What's that going to do over a 25 or 30 or 50-year guarantee to a product? And especially when they call it fade resistant and so forth, will it affect the color and so forth? So the things to keep in mind when we're using these hot mixes. The other thing that's important to know about capped composite is it's not all, a lot of people think it's all PVC coating. Some of it's been changed to polymer coating just because everybody thinks there's old generation and new generation. There's been generations in between as well where products are amended or changed and so forth. So what happened is, this is very important in the case with Zori and some of the other products, especially when we start talking about some of those ones that were more like PVC decking, like Wolf, Azek, so forth, some of the capping. It can what's called plasticize. So it's really important if you're out cleaning a deck, you look when you go to these jobs, is to look for things like white spots or areas where color has come out. And the two main areas where this happens is with sunscreen in a metal can or insect repellent. When it's sprayed on the deck, it can take the color out. So you want to identify those things before you start cleaning one of these composite decks and bring that to the attention of the customer. I've actually gone out and seen them where the little footprints in the deck and the white spots are around it. And you can tell where they've been spraying the sunscreen. Now the rule of thumb is if it's in a metal can, you don't use it. If it's in a plastic can, you can use it. But you don't want to plasticize it and take the color out of the product, because once the color's out, it's damaged. And you'll see that in the manufacturer recommendations as well. Now, when we go back to the new stuff as opposed to the old stuff, I didn't mention in the old stuff, the old composite, it was no pressure washer. We were hand scrubbing this and then rinsing off. We didn't want to use the pressure washer, as I said, to remove the coating. On the new stuff, and I don't know why, but there's a big variation in the different manufacturers of what PSI to use for the pressure washer. And this is where a lot of the manufacturers and I, the Wizard of Wood, definitely disagree. It's not about pressure, and if you think pressure cleans, you're mistaken. If you think pressure cleans over one of the products that we could be using and you just don't want to recommend it, I would disagree with you. When you tell someone you can use 3100 PSI, as in the case of Trex, you know, they think that's how you clean. And then they go around and turn it to the house or something else, and they can do a lot of damage with 3100 PSI. PSI doesn't clean. So it's a matter of getting the right product. Surfactants work well. They lift up out of the rough surface, and then you do a light rinse. Some of them are 1500 PSI and so forth. Really, what today most people talk about is soft washing. And soft washing is a great tool when it comes to this, because it's really just let the product do the work, a short dwell time, and then you rinse off with a soft wash process. It works really, really well. So we do not need that 3100 PSI. I know that's the manufacturer recommendation, but the Wizard of Wood is telling you today that pressure does not clean. It usually causes more damage and usually transferable, because the image and the perception is pressure cleans, especially when we're recommending 3100 PSI. So anyway, with these Trex and all the others, they're all detergents are always the best. If you can get away with using detergent, that's great. Warm soapy water, if you can scrub and use a garden hose, that's great. We restore wood. Sometimes we do it by hand. We do it with just a garden hose. We can't let water enter the, say, the cabin and so forth. So this could all be done with a cleaner, a scrub brush, and a garden hose as well. Pressure washer should just be used to save time. Okay, so be careful using a pressure washer on the different surfaces. So again, I'm just going to bring up a couple of items that I wanted to discuss. When it comes to Trex, like I said, they have their recommendations. Trex, make sure when you go on there that you get either the old or the new recommendation. You don't want to take 3100 PSI and go to this, which I see a lot of people posting and recommending, which is absolutely incorrect, and you will definitely further damage the older Trex that you don't want to do. That 3100 PSI is meant for the newer products, okay? So make sure you get the new versus the old. When you go on to all the other ones, you're going to see the same thing. They're going to tell you whether to use a brush, a fiber brush, a nylon brush, which type of brush. You will see all the stuff that is on the recommendations. So this is a product called Zori. Zori actually will tell you about plasticizing, what to use, what not to use, and what can be used. And they actually have Clorox bleach and sodium hydroxide in their, is what they consider safe to use, whereas others don't go that far. So again, there is a difference between all these. We use Vecca, Fiberon, Fiberon's here as well. And just so you see, Fiberon, the same thing. you look on something like this, you can see the wood fiber in here as well, but we have a cap. So the name may change, but the products are similar, and we want to be careful with them. So hopefully that kind of answers a lot of the questions in regards to the composite decking. Composite usually has the recyclables, it has some wood content, it's usually what everybody talks about. They kind of throw everything into composite decking, but there is also, like I said, the PVC type decking and polymer, so you have AZEK and Wolf and some of the others. You want to be really, really careful about the products that you use on those, because again, you could plasticize, take the color out, or damage it. And a lot of times when once we damage the product, it's irreversible. We can't put the color back in. And then if anybody has been working with any of these products and knows, the colors are constantly changing, new ones coming out, new ones coming in, the depth of the thickness of the product, so forth. So they don't always match up. So if you go 3-5 years down the road, you may not even be able to match up what was already out there. In the case of Trex, they also have their basics now, which is ribbed like kind of like the old TimberTech, and it doesn't, so it has less product, and it's a cheaper option for the customer, but still has that 25-year guarantee. And you'll be able to notice things like thickness and product and so forth, changes and so forth. So it's really good to know the product, follow them, follow the product lines. For instance, Trex has 4 different product lines going, to know which ones are which. Same thing with the other ones, all the other manufacturers. Know your product line, know what you're cleaning, and research that, and make sure you know before you head out. If you're not sure, there's 2 ways. One is obviously call the manufacturer, contact the manufacturer and get their recommendations, go online and get it, or you could subscribe to our YouTube channel with the Wizard of Wood or Deck Restoration Plus. You could always ask a question of the Wizard and we'll get back to you as well. So hopefully in this video we have outlined and described a lot of what's going on with the composite decking, how best to clean it, and where you get your recommendations and so forth. So that at the end of the day, we just want you to be successful. We don't want you to get into a litigious situation where or an insurance situation where you've done some damage and it's going to be uncomfortable for you and or the customer. So that's the reason for having this video and for going through this in such detail. So thank you very much.